Hello and welcome. It is the end of the 11th day of March 2018. This is the Money Charts channel. All bets trades within each his own risk and their own reward. As we'll start off within the Litecoin chart. And when the market goes down, I just got to buy it. And I did. I bought Litecoin today. Not many, just a bit. I did so a little higher than this price, but not much. 141 and small numbers below as far as when the trade was executed against that of Bitcoin. As we had a nice little decline of close to 15%. As the last time I sold it would have been the 6th of June, which would have been up here probably around 144, 145 maybe, right in here. And yeah, but well more than 10% down. And as we switch it over to DGB, I end up selling some DGB for 331. And on the 6th, I ended up buying some on the 6th after I bought, or preceding that of buying my Litecoin. So somewhere here at, I think around somewhere here in the 300 area, 291, 292 sounds about right, 290, whatever, somewhere in here. As that's the trade, trading Litecoin with DGB. It was a short-term trade. It was the information that I provide in the more information box. It's a 45-minute video. That's focused on long-term trading, selling for 30, 40, 50% kind of moves. And I do play for 40% moves and 15% moves, both of them. And that was a 15% move from that play there. And I just want to get as much trade volume as I can. And DGB works very well. I think perfect. Well, not perfectly, as there's always going to be improvements, but it works spectacular for this. As one, what I like about it is that well, it's a fast coin. I just sent some Vertcoin over to Poloniex, 600 confirmations. It's my equivalent. My estimated time is about a 26-hour time to confirm 600 confirmations. Bittrex I see has 600 confirmations as well, so that's not a good coin if you need to send it to your wallet because you need to trade it soon. When I sent my DGB to the wallet today, it took me 10 minutes, and I wish it would have took me 13 or 14 because it was 2 Satoshi higher, 2 or 3 minutes later. But whatever, because I sold at 331 and it was 333 at that whatever. Now, what I like about this over all those great things, it's got a good spread on exchanges. It's practically nothing to withdraw the DGB off of exchanges. If you have a Trezor wallet, Nano Ledger, you can. I don't think Nano Ledger, most likely. I use a Trezor wallet, and you can stick it on there, which is spectacular. But when you have coins that move wildly, especially if you can get two together, let alone just having this with a base coin like Litecoin and Ripple and Ethereum and any of those others, that's fine and dandy as well. After all, the whole point of it is to do two coins you expect to be good long-term plays. So there's two coins you really want to hodl and hold, and you just want to buy now, just let them sit for years and so long. Well, might as well do this and just have them both skyrocket in amounts. So to me, it just makes sense. So let's take a look at what it looked like using a spreadsheet going back to 2017 for about a 1 year sum of time. And we are starting in the year 2017, and the date is May the 13th. We have XBY on column C and DGB on column D. Therefore, what do each of these days means? What would we be doing based on the strategy that I talk about in the more information box of this video? Well, the answer is on May the 14th, when the price of this goes up, and this one pretty much is the same, you're selling some XBY and you're buying some DGB. The very next day, well, it's even a better gain, and it's pretty much only a 1% increase again on DGB. So you sell XBY and you buy DGB. The very next day, XBY barely goes up. I mean, all it goes up is like 8%. That's like child's play. Toddler's play. Child's play is like even better than that. Well, you get my point. 3x move, better than that. Yeah, better than that, marginally, on DGB. You're selling more than half of the DGB you own, and you're buying a whack amount of XBY. And then 3 days later, you're going to buy even more XBY because its price had a significant loss, and DGB had a child's play loss. So you'd sell this 335. And the very next day, both prices go up. You most likely shouldn't be making a trade, but short term, it's worth noting that DGB had the better day. So if anything, you'd sell some DGB for XBY. But really, that's only a short term move. But the very next day, it ain't. Not when this goes from under 600 to 8 3/4. And this one falls 140 basis points almost. Okay, 25% loss on XBY. And here we have a gain of about 50% equivalency. Yeah, sell DGB, buy XBY. And then June the 1st, which represents about 2 weeks later, well, I guess you're going to sell a whole bunch of XBY and buy DGB when that happens. And June the 2nd, the very next day, both markets go up. Which one goes up better? Well, I guess marginally DGB, but the very next day again, noticeable difference. Big gain here, child's play loss here. So you're selling DGB, you're buying XBY. 5 days later, DGB goes up okay, 10%, and this one falls about 10%. Maybe some short-term plays. And then within a month later, goes from June the 8th to July the 10th. XBY almost loses half its value, and XBY uses multiple times its value. And you're not just waiting, oh, we're making, this is not like, okay, we traded this day, a month later we're trading. There would have been a series of trades. The vast majority, if not all of your trades, would have been that of selling XBY for DGB. And then when another month goes by, the opposite would occur. So over the months of mostly July into August, you'd be selling DGB, buying XBY. Then over the month of August, it would be the opposite. A few days later, you'd sell DGB for XBY. Within the next 2 months, you can see that you'd be selling XBY, buying DGB, once it goes down here. And these are the moves we're looking for. A month goes by from 10.25 to 11.28. DGB has a child's play, a pretty good child's play loss. That's still close to 20%. But that's well more than half its value. So your primary play within the last few days of October and pretty much the entire month of November is that of buying XBY, which you'd be selling for the last couple of days of November and the first 2 weeks of December. And then look at this, the very next day on 12/15, XBY goes down like 130 points. That's like not quite 15%. And this goes from 117 to 164. That's not a child's play gain. That's a teenager's gain maybe, or a college student, whatever, high school gain, that's a better word. 44 plus 3 is 47. So the differential on that is like a 40% move. That's enough where, okay, I'm going to sell DGB. And then 4 days later, you're going to do it again. You're going to sell DGB. And then the next day, you're going to buy it back, even though it's 3% higher in price. Because XBY, you're selling. As you would again the next day on the 22nd. But here on the 23rd, you make a small sell because this goes up from 303 to 480, where this pretty much stays flat, only up 2%. And then Christmas Eve, the very next day, DGB has a very good gain, up like 120 basis points, 25%, where XBY falls 200 or 10%. And then a week and a half goes by after New Year's. DGB falls a little bit and XBY just explodes. Okay, so sell XBY, buy DGB. And 2 days later, obviously we know what we're doing here. We're going to buy this bad price, but over the next month we can see that you'd be selling the DGB. And mathematically, when you're making these trades, You're just going to see the sum of your two coins go up in phenomenal value. Now, putting the strategy more advanced, and I think very important, is the price of Bitcoin. What was the price of Bitcoin? And I'm using my memory off my head. And overall, it's the area is always correct. A few thousand in May, a couple thousand maybe, 2,400. And then as we get to these prices here where they're really big, prices in June, now we're starting to talk about $3,000 Bitcoin prices or the high 2000s. So you definitely want to talk about profit taking a little bit here. Now back then, that price of 3,000 was a small break of the $1,000 resistance. And then of course prices go down. But then December occurs. Bitcoin prices are pretty much at all-time highs here. And you own a lot of these coins. Or you own a lot in value, I should be saying it as. Technically, when they're selling them, you're selling a whole bunch of them and they go up this high. The amount you should own after this 53.31 is very low. You're selling, from the point of these buys in here, you're basically selling almost all of what you got for the most part. And the strategy works out because they usually do top when they go like that. But this is where you'd be like, okay, Bitcoin prices are worth this much. Your altcoins, like DGB gets up to 600, XBY is at 1700. Look at these historical prices. I mean, DGB, yes, it was up here, but 600 is still a good price. In fact, it's a lot higher than all of these bear market prices were. And then, obviously, when you're talking these prices here, those were good. But then, in January, when you have a coin like this that goes up big, which was like XBY, Bitcoin prices were near those highs still on January 3rd, January 5th. So again, the BTC or USD, CAD, Australia dollar, the euro value, whichever currency you deal with, the value would be worth is very good. Which means to me is a good time to be like, okay, I own X amount of it, like one coin, Y amount of the other. Maybe I sell 20% of each. So you take 20% of them to the exchange, sell them for Bitcoin, send those to your wallet, and then when they go to your wallet, you do what you need to do with it. In my case, I think a good one is buying gold and silver. Because as we can see with gold, 1292. Okay, I like it. I like it. It's medium concerned for me. I do have a small concern with gold that I feel I'm not too concerned with it, but I'm lowly because I do see a troublesome sign here on gold. And that is that, well, even if we do come down to 1235, there's a good chance it's going to be support. And yeah, hopefully it would take a sweet little time, but this thing, if it goes, could have a significant rise. Like a fast move to 1522 and maybe even pierce above it. And that's no guarantee 1522 is going to be resistance. As much as I hope it is, the market does what it does. You can hope for something all you want, but hope ain't going to do anything to accomplish what you want. That's basically it. But there's nothing wrong with hoping and cheering for something, obviously. The world allows that. So, if that happens, what does that mean with the white metal, the silver metal? Well, then this really is the real good news. It's $15 and change. $15.29. 30 cents, whatever, same thing. That's really exceptionally low. If this thing was like 21, it would be really, really low. So how high can this go if gold breaks like has like that week I talk about or month? Well, I figured what happens. I figured it happened in like a week or a few days, but whatever. Has a fast move to that resistance line I was showing. I mean, silver's going to go up, and it's probably going to go up at a higher rate of ascent percentage-wise. Who cares if it goes up to 20 or 22 or 24? That's when I look at the grand scheme of things. As long as prices stay below this upper line at $30.33 in that ballpark area. That's only about a 2x move from here. And I do mean that word only. Because in trading cryptos, and when crypto prices are at levels to sell, as the examples I was showing you at the end of 2017 into the start of 2018, as well as the period in June of 2017 as well, when those periods come into place, then this is what I'm going to want to buy. And I'm really not near that period right now where, okay, let's turn some precious metals into, or cryptos into precious metals, although I most recently did. But that was a formality of taking coins off an exchange for really Bitcoin and Litecoin that were sold back in over 10 months ago. I was going to say over a year ago, but it was in May. And it might have been a little under 10 months, as if that matters. So I feel it's safe because, I mean, for what it's worth, if I'm going to be selling BTC in the future for precious metals and the price is at current compared to double, well, that means I get half as much. Or it costs me twice as much. Combination of both, maybe. Maybe I only get 80 ounces compared to 160 that I wanted, or whatever that number is in half. But that's really why I consider this that maximum number. Because if this thing really explodes, and I expect it to do so, I really, really do, in time. And it could take, and for what I hope it does take some time. I hope this thing can take a few years to work its way, and they usually do in spots like this. After all, cryptos usually go up a lot faster than they go down. Well, this isn't a crypto, this is silver. But I'm going to pretty much say the same thing here, that silver pretty much it goes up super fast. We see here this move, and then, I mean, this is a noteworthy move, and then not shown 1979 and pretty much the 70s. So yeah, it would go straight up oftentimes. But you know what? If it does it now, I did do an inventory count on my silver, and it did go over the first target number that historically I really wanted to get to, which means it's all about getting in towards the next levels thereafter that. But yeah, if this thing goes up to, like, say 185 and my currency portfolio goes up 10 times, that it technically cost me more than it would today. And that's why in Hope, I wouldn't mind seeing situations where we reach what I consider the next big sell levels, which is not on for buying here, but the sell levels on cryptos. And Bitcoin's the best way to do it. So when you look at the sell levels from before, if you were back in here on this low, your first one is when you have a good retracement from previous high, which would have started to be around 400s into the 500, 600 area. I would have even said 620 to start. I mean, you're looking at maybe a 61.8% retracement from low to highs where you would start to sell for introduction to profit taking, and they're usually a lot smaller than what they're going to be. And then previous high is another area where you do another small sell. And then you get to the intermediate sell, a little bit higher, which is a small but noticeable break, which would have been probably around 2,500 to 3,000, 4,000 area, but 2,500 to 3. And then if it's going to go higher than that, then you figure, well, it's definitely going to at least go to 5 and 6. So basically, once you just started to go to 5 and 6, anything higher, it was just like, come on, this is overextended. Just every so often, just keep on selling some, turning it into something. Precious metals, like I was showing, gold and silver being that of one of them. So as we stand today, well, same thing, 61.8%. So we're looking at about a small sell at about 93. Another small one about 16. Previous high at 20. And then a nice little noticeable nice high like 45,000 area. 42, 52. And then you just got to go extreme when it hits like 130, 120. Just go nuts. Just until it stops going up, just go nuts selling. That's how I'm viewing the market and planning the trade, if you will, from where we go from here. Because when we look at this on the daily, it's a waterfall move down from the break of 6,000. It had its first high into the 18 here at 44. It hasn't tested that level since, albeit piercing below. And then the lower low, and there's the first pierce below. This was a lower high piercing below, pretty much a matching one. And same thing here again. It hasn't been able to even make a single higher high really on the daily. But if it breaks above this resistance in here, I'm really going to be liking its mathematical chances of doing such. Meaning, I see it holding. Maybe, like one thing, if I can see something like supporting the 18 average of highs area around 38.67, that meaning daily lows come in around that point. Having a daily high as a nice pierce above the highs, maybe somewhere around 4,012 or 4,021, and even a little higher, 4,029 in this little range in here, and then support it for about 2-3 days. I don't really care too much, even if it's an uptrend, sideways or downtrend over those 3 days on support. But holding that number I mentioned and having multiple hit days on the resistance, if I see that for like 3 or 4 days or whatever, I'm like, wow, this has got an exciting pattern. And the opposite would be true on the lows. If I see anything that type of nature showing weakness on the lows, because what I stated before would be an example of seeing strength amongst the 18 highs. Because as it stands, it's this correctionary move. So either this thing has got to break above it to attempt to make its first higher high on the daily time frame in a long, long time, or it's going to basically giving you signs showing weakness here that this rally is that of a failed one because it's not correcting successfully within its correctionary phase. And thus, that's that. All that talk before was first about 3,000, which it pierced above, and then the next support level below that, well, that's what the break of this is. But because of the extended time that it's had up here, and because of the fact this level didn't test 31, it just had a good decline and had a good rally. So it's had two good rallies basically from this 3,000. That's basically what I'm trying to point out. That if the price action were to go to 3,100, the more and more I see it staying up here, the more and more I'm actually optimistic for at least short-term support. But I still wouldn't like it too much, and especially that I already played my hedge away. But one reason I did that is because I am becoming more and more confident that the bottoms are in, and that there's a good chance, or near rather, or that there's a better chance that the bottoms are in. But again, it's got to make its play from one of these two sides. It was showing a lot of strength here below the 18 average of highs. Then it got above it, but it really wasn't much of an above play. This pause candle was nice, but it didn't have a nice follow through. Within like a 1.25% loss, that's like nothing really. But that'll do it. I'll just quickly show the hour. Nothing too exciting. I mean, it is doing its normal thing, where it breaks a key level like this. 18 starts to decline. You resist that band. You have even another second hits established support. You have a good leg lower when you break it. From the low, it comes to its correctionary phase, and it's doing a very good job in it now because it entered it pretty much. It entered it nicely, entered the waters, if you will, on 1,300 hours. And it has been nowhere near resisting. It's been, in fact, creating an ascending triangle with even an uptrend line a little bit. So it's hanging in there, band is flattening out, and I mean, again, this is just whatever nonsense is to me as far as the single hour term time frame is concerned. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.